I soldered the connections on all ends because I had to spread out the end on the tabs to fit the larger wire. I decided just going to do a 40 amp fuse. I was going to wire two 40 amp fuses side by side, but 40 amps is enough. I don't need 80 amps. And one might burn, then the other one might burn right away anyway. So yeah, 40 amps is enough. So I'm going to wire that on. So it just plugs in there like that. And the other side plugs in there, and then put the nut on, tighten it up, and then there's my auxiliary charging cable. And to get my ground, cable, I'm just gonna put a Torx screw into there, and then have a ground wire coming up to the same location, and have them zip tied together. I don't know, somewhere here. Maybe I'll zip tie them. Oh, I don't have the light in there properly. Okay, that tab is supposed to be in the shroud there. Yeah, maybe I'll zip tie them beside the washer fluid bottle, or I'll just, well, that's the latch for the little cover. Maybe I can hook it on the side there and it won't be in the way. Yeah, and then I'll just have the two wires hanging there. I'll spray one red and spray one black, and when we need to boost, I just have to take the tape off the end and boost it. So that's emergency unlock the car if the battery goes dead, because the tailgate latch is the key latch is kind of screwed up. So until I fix it, that's the emergency how I'm gonna get in the car if the battery goes dead. So there's my ends. So I spray painted that one red, that's positive. And there's a black one, that's negative. Could just wrap some electrical tape on it. Got to be careful those ends don't touch one another. I just have it loose so I could show how I did it. And then so the negative, I just drilled a hole, put a self-tapping screw in there, and that's fastened to the cross member. And it routes in to the positive battery terminal. There's a 40 amp fuse. Yeah, zip tied it to the positive battery cable. Goes down through the vent hole there. There's a little bit of gap around the wire, so it still is able to vent the space. This vent tube sticks down, and the top of it is like on the top of the space, so if it pressures up, then the fumes go down from the top. I guess hydrogen rises. It doesn't fall below the oxygen. Just like with oil and water, one of them sits on top of the other one, just like hydrogen and oxygen. So might get a little bit of hydrogen in there, but this thing was like lying in there anyway, you know, and there wasn't any issue, so I'm not too worried about it. And the battery doesn't create that much hydrogen off gas unless it goes from totally dead to overcharged kind of thing. So that's how that's wired in. I'll check it for voltage here, and then I'll finish buttoning it up.
Let's see if we can get one man locked in.
Okay, lots of voltage there. So I'm not going to test it out, because I don't want to blow that fuse, but I know 40 amps is well enough to hook the booster cables on the end of the wire and unlock the door with the remote. What I used on the tip of the wire is just a copper collet. This is for an electrical panel. You put it on the end of the wire, and then you can run a screw into it and it keeps the wire intact and keeps everything all tight so the wire doesn't spread out on the end. So that's what that's for, and I just put that on the end of the wire and I soldered it in there, and that's how I got the little bit bigger end there where all the wires stay together. I zip tied it through the hole there. So they're auxiliary charging port if your battery ever goes dead. If you have a smart 450, you could drill another hole in the bottom of the battery box and then run your wire in, or there's a rubber grommet on the side. You can run it through, there's a spare rubber grommet. So if you look there below the power wire, there's another rubber grommet on the bottom. You could just poke it with a knife and run your wire through there and then silicone it up. Or you can drill another hole in the bottom of the battery box and run your wire that way. And then you can still have the proper vent in the battery area. I remember I had these vacuum caps for carburetors, and I figured that worked pretty good for capping that positive line. Just gotta find the one the right size.
And the magic we're talking
A little bit too big.
sleight of hand or trick of it.
No. That, again, as I say, I didn't want to be confused with Penn and Teller because they are incredibly skillful at what they do, and I cannot do that stuff.
Copperfield, all those people, they're fantastic when it comes to that.
Yeah, that works pretty great.
Magic, though, there's some deep roots to it, doesn't it?
Oh yeah.
Cool. So I'll just wrap a couple turns of tape on there just to keep it on, and yeah, that's awesome. It's factory, almost factory.